Hello everyone, this is Story Dive, back again, reviewing, recapping, and breaking down the Easter eggs and references in another episode of American Gods. This time, Season 3, Episode 6, titled Conscience of the King, which is a reference to Shakespeare's Hamlet, the line, "The play's the thing wherein I'll catch the conscience of a king." No need to applaud my performance there. It's also likely a reference to Wednesday, who as Odin is sort of the king of the Norse gods. He also puts on a play later in the episode, and in the end displays a bit of a conscience. It's also interesting that Wednesday has made multiple Shakespeare references in this season, and even his assistant, Cordelia, has the name of a Shakespeare character. Even though we're past the halfway mark, this episode still did feel a bit slow to me, although there were some interesting things revealed, and it does seem like the season is coming to the conclusion of some of the arcs, especially in this episode, the Demeter arc. So without further ado, let's get to that.
The story of America is one of destiny.
As the episode starts out, we hear Wednesday narrating his story, which takes place during the Revolutionary War, sometime after the surrender at Yorktown. In the second episode of the season, Dr. Tyrell, aka Tyr, made reference to he and Wednesday posing as Hessian Jaegers on the side of the British during the Battle of Yorktown before switching to the side of the Continental Army, and in this episode we see them after the surrender at Yorktown. Based on what Tyr says,
Cornwallis finally surrendered,
referring to the British general during that battle. In the credits, these two actors are referred to as Colonial Wednesday and Colonial Tyr, and at this point, the young Odin and Tyr are basically operating as soldiers of fortune, extracting any wealth they can, and in the case of Tyr, he is also extracting teeth. Even at this stage, he seems to be taking teeth as a token of power or luck in battle, I think. He even makes what I think is an offering of ale to himself, and Tyr says he has some business to attend to, a woman, which Wednesday says he will help him woo, but it turns out the woman in question is a goddess, Demeter, and as soon as Wednesday sees her, you can figure out the rest. He has his eye on Demeter as well. This, of course, begins a rift between Tyr and Wednesday that we'll find out more about later in the episode. As it turns out, Wednesday is narrating the sequence because it's actually a play, a shadow play that he's writing, which he intends to present to Demeter at the retreat. As Wednesday says later, the shadow play is one of the first forms of narrative art, and Wednesday says this is his masterpiece, probably meaning a kind of masterpiece con to get Demeter, but I think despite that, there is a lot of truth in this play. At the retreat, Wednesday is trying to charm everybody, including this woman, Elsa, who he compliments by saying her paintings resemble the late Georgia O'Keeffe, a famous painter who was known for making very vaginal-looking flowers, but Wednesday says her flowers look more like flowers. Later, Wednesday gets in trouble with this orderly named Hank because Demeter planted some pills in his room in one of her corn husk effigies. Of course, in the last episode, Wednesday and Demeter made a wager to see if Wednesday could last a week in the retreat, so she's trying to trip him up. Wednesday denies the accusations and says he prefers a flagon or two of mead, of course the drink of choice for Norse gods. Wednesday is able to make a kind of agreement with Hank because he is crushing on this other employee of the retreat named Liz, and vice versa, although Hank doesn't seem to realize it. Wednesday sort of agrees to help him with his love life, or le jeu de l'amour, the game of love as he puts it. He even says he will be Hank's Cyrano, referring to the title character in the play Cyrano de Bergerac, in which the long-nosed Cyrano kind of speaks through the character Christian to woo his love Roxanne. But anyway, based on this agreement, Hank looks the other way on the pill thing, and also when Demeter tries to frame Wednesday for breaking these pots later.
I am drugs.
Back in Lakeside at Shadow's apartment, he responds to being told what has been happening with Laura and her current plans to kill Wednesday. He's not really on board with this, and Laura doesn't understand why until he reveals that Wednesday is his father, which she didn't know before this. Of course, this complicates things, but he doesn't actively try to stop her. As Laura leaves, they run into Marguerite, and Shadow introduces her as his late wife, which is true, but Laura clarifies his ex-wife. She seems to realize that there's something going on between Marguerite and Shadow, but she seems to give Shadow her blessing. Even though she's alive now, their relationship is still dead. Back at the warehouse, where we left Technical Boy in the last episode, sitting underneath the automaton, Technical Boy comes out from the automaton and consults another old-school piece of technology like the automaton, a computer, to analyze himself and figure out what's wrong. The computer reveals that he is, for the first time, experiencing human emotion. So when Bilquis touched him, she seems to have connected some part of Technical Boy to human emotion. The computer says that for complete data restoration, Technical Boy needs to find artifact number 1, which Technical Boy is unaware of. In the previous episode, I thought the automaton was the earliest version of Tech Boy, but it's possible artifact number 1 is the earliest technology. In a motel where Salim and Laura are staying, Salim turns on the TV and sees an ad in which we see one of Mr. World's assistants, Dr. Fap, and Dr. Fap even addresses Salim by name in the ad. Salim then shows Laura a flyer that he's found for a death metal show and vigil for the band Blood Death. Many of the band members were killed in a previous episode, so this is their vigil, and Wednesday is supposed to be there, but as we find out later, the vigil is cancelled. And Laura says, "Why am I not surprised that the Buckeye State, meaning Ohio, has a freaky Norse underbelly? If you're a Viking from Ohio, let me know." Back at Lakeside, Police Chief Chad Mulligan is holding a meeting about the missing Allison McGovern, who hasn't been found for a while now. In this scene, you really get a sense that Chad is a little incompetent, and really, it's Hinzelman who runs the town. She takes charge of the meeting, and in a later scene, we hear from Marguerite Olsen that she even owns the house that Shadow is staying at, as well as like 6 other places. So aside from being the unofficial mayor, Hinzelman is really like the unofficial power and driving force behind the town as well.
We are Lakesiders!
At Miss World's conference room, Miss World talks to her assistants Trending and Meme, although we don't see her, when she suddenly transforms into her Danny Trejo form. Why she does this, I don't know, but I suspect Danny Trejo is kind of like Mr. World's enforcer form. I just hope we get to see Danny Trejo wielding some knives in this season. Mr. World asks about the whereabouts of Technical Boy, because he does need Technical Boy to complete his Shard project, or the Church of the Mind that will connect the new gods to the minds of 8 billion worshippers. But Meme and Trending say they don't know where he is, he's gone offline, when suddenly Technical Boy walks in the door. At Shadow's apartment in Lakeside, Shadow is redecorating, painting his room pink, or salmon mist as he later says, in his shorts with the door open while he dances to Belle Biv DeVoe's Poison, a song which refers to the very deep and truthful message that Shadow should never trust a big butt and a smile. Marguerite comes in because of course the music is loud and the door is open. I don't know if this is one of Shadow's moves to woo a lady, but I know a lot of women were happy to see Ricky Whittle shirtless in this scene. Marguerite invites him to dinner, where she says he can meet her sister, who we find out later is the character that gave him a ride in the last season, Sam Blackcrow. She's Marguerite's half-sister. After Marguerite leaves, Shadow sees what looks like a tree in the paint. This could be a reference to the Norse World Tree or Yggdrasil from the last season, or it could be another clue as to Allison. In a previous episode, we saw the newspaper change to sort of give him a clue regarding Allison, although he didn't see it. So this could be something similar, a message regarding the whereabouts of Allison. Later, Mr. World and Technical Boy have a one-on-one talk. Technical Boy says that he needs to find Artifact 1, and even though I think Mr. World knows what this is, he doesn't tell Tech Boy where it is, but he does reveal that Technical Boy is one of his children, meaning likely Tech Boy and Media were creations of Mr. World, like his social media assistants in the season, and he explains that without Tech Boy, technology is just meaningless data. He needs Tech Boy to give it meaning and intelligence. So that's kind of an interesting interpretation of what the new gods are. All of these things like technology and media exist without them, but they are what give it meaning. Then Mr. World goes to an underground bunker, where he's keeping what I think is Artifact 1, the first tool and thus the earliest form of technology, or potentially it's also the first object of worship. And he's talking on the phone to someone we don't know who, but whoever it is, Mr. World is asking them, how do you want to play this? Which makes me think it's not one of his subordinates, because he's actually asking this person or being's opinion, and I have a theory about who it is, but it's based on a pretty big spoiler from the book, so I'll get to that theory at the very end of the video and give you fair warning before I discuss it. Back at the retreat, Wednesday gets his promised one night to show Demeter his heart for winning the wager. He puts on his shadow play. By the way, it's interesting that he has a son named Shadow, and he's doing a shadow play. But anyway, for the audience at the retreat and Demeter, he does this play recounting basically the story of his relationship with Demeter, and also Tyr in a bizarre love triangle. This all took place during the Revolutionary War era, and he says that while Tyr wanted to woo Demeter, she fell for him, Wednesday, and they actually had a child, who we find out later was a daughter. However, that daughter died as a baby or a small child, and at this point, Wednesday couldn't handle it, so he abandoned Demeter while Tyr was there for her. In this shot, we see that Wednesday isn't even manning the puppets, they're doing this on their own, and at this point we can see in the audience that Dr. Tyrell, Tyr, is actually there at the retreat. All three go to Demeter's greenhouse, where Tyr accuses Wednesday of just being after Demeter's money, and Wednesday says, yes, but she loves me in spite of it. Demeter then says it's the other way around, but she says with Wednesday everything is either a game or pure theater, whereas Tyr doesn't have a false bone in his body. Of course, because aside from being a god of war, he's also a god of justice and truth. Based on the end of the scene, it seems that Tyr and Wednesday still have a bit of bad blood. Wednesday even accuses Tyr of being a tooth fairy, which was a comment I made in the breakdown of episode 2, based on the Old Norse tradition of Tanfei and children's teeth being lucky in battle.
Tooth fairy.
Shadow attends the dinner with Marguerite and her half-sister Sam Blackrow. Of course, Sam knows that Shadow's name isn't Mike Ansel, it's Shadow Moon, but she plays along. Later, it is revealed that Marguerite's son, Sandy, is missing. She suspects he's with his dad in Florida, but as Sam says later, she doesn't think this is the case. I have another comment about this I'll get to in the book spoiler part of the video, but as Sam drives away, Shadow sees the Lakeside Thunderbirds logo on her car, which I thought before was a sports team, but based on the fact that Sam also has this sticker, and Sandy was clearly into music based on his mixtape, I think it might have been a band that both Sandy and Sam were in. That's my guess. After Sam drives away, the panty thief is caught, and it's Derek from the diner, which means he will probably come under suspicion for Allison's disappearance. As Laura and Slim realize that the Viking Metal show has been cancelled, they turn around and see Mr. World, who says he hears they have a common enemy, Wednesday. So it seems Mr. World will help Laura and Salim find Wednesday, but with Mr. World you can't say for sure what he's really up to. Near the end of the episode, Wednesday finally gets Demeter to agree to leave the retreat. The release papers arrived, and Wednesday asks if she'll come with him. In this scene, he seems genuinely heartbroken about the loss of their daughter, but still he has the war on his mind, and Demeter realizes this, although she says she needs to return to the world and rejoin its wild dance. As Demeter leaves, we see Elsa crying and holding on to the corn dolly or effigy of Demeter, but as it turns out, Demeter doesn't leave with Wednesday, she sort of disintegrates into the sky. And I think this is Demeter as a goddess of the harvest and life, sort of rejoining with nature. I'm assuming Wednesday will get her money anyway, but at the end of the episode, he does seem genuinely sad that she's gone. I think despite all of his plotting and scheming, he does truly love her as much as he can. So that is the end of the episode. I do have a few book spoilers, which I'll get to in a bit, but first, as always, I'd like to ask your opinion on this episode. What did you think of it, and where do you think it's going? Also, did you notice any details or Easter eggs that I missed in this video? If so, let me know what these are in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss my next review of American Gods. With that out of the way, here are the book spoilers. I'm just going to give you a little bit extra time in case you're listening to this in the kitchen or the bathroom or something. Come out of the kitchen and turn off this video so I don't ruin the series for you. Okay, fine, time's up. In the earlier scene when we saw Mr. World talking on the phone, we don't know exactly who he's talking to, but because he seemed to be asking the person's opinion, it's my theory that he was actually talking to Wednesday. If you haven't read the book or you're not aware of this, in the book, Mr. World is actually Loki, the Norse trickster god. Wednesday and Loki, Mr. World, are in on a grand scheme which I don't need to talk about, but if you read the book, you know what it is. This series has changed a lot of things from the book, so I don't know for sure that Mr. World is Loki in the series, but in Norse mythology, Loki has the power to transform, as we see Mr. World doing a lot of in this series. So I think Mr. World or Loki might have been giving Wednesday kind of a status update on what's happening. Another spoiler from the book that they referenced in this episode is the disappearance of Marguerite's son, Sandy. In the book, Sandy's missing because every year a child goes missing, becoming a sacrifice to the local god, and it's not Derek, the panty thief. They might have changed this for the series, but in the book, this character rhymes with Binzelman. Likely that's the reason Sandy is missing in the series as well. So if you didn't want to know that, I hope I didn't just spoil the series for you. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to tune in next week for my review of the next episode. Thanks for watching, and until next time.